The New York Islanders win the 2025 NHL Draft Lottery. They have the first pick in this year's draft. We're going to talk about the impact this pick has on the franchise and the new GM search. All of that and a lot more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
You're Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Tuesday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 to the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey. And what a momentous night Monday was for the New York Islanders. In spite of having just a 3.5% chance of getting the top pick in this year's NHL draft, the Islanders win the draft lottery. And they now own the number 1 pick in this year's draft, scheduled to happen late next month in Los Angeles. This is a game changer, and it has potentially the ability to impact the retool/rebuild of the New York Islanders. The ripple effect of this lottery win is going to be felt for a long time. And I'll start with this. The Islanders are still looking for a general manager. Well, the Islanders' general manager job just got more attractive to anybody. When you know that you have the first overall pick in this year's draft, that when you join this organization, you start out with that pick, that is a bona fide aspect, a bona fide fact that is going to attract potential GMs to this job. It also gives the New York Islanders an opportunity to add a very, very talented player who potentially could play in the NHL this year. And everydayers, we've discussed the fact that the Islanders prospect pool isn't exactly filled with players who are ready to come in and help right now. That the best players in this pool, the Cole Isermans and the Danny Nelsons, those guys are a couple of years away, maybe 3, but well, now that this season is over, let's say 2 years away. Now, if you have that first overall pick, you have the opportunity to add a player who will be on your NHL roster this year. And that definitely changes the approach that you have. The top 3 players as of right now in the NHL draft, the prospects listed at the top, and we saw them if you watched the draft lottery. You had defenseman Matthew Schaefer. He is considered the top prospect, a potential number 1 defenseman. And, you're talking about a big deal there. You have Michael Misa, a center. And then you have Long Island native James Hagen, also a center. Those are your top 3 picks. If you add a player who can make the roster right away or very soon after, maybe they don't start the season on the Islanders, but maybe they're there by, January, let's say, and I'm just making this up. But what it means is you construct your roster differently. You move out some of the older players maybe a little bit sooner, knowing that you have an elite talent coming in. Now, none of these players are considered, a Sidney Crosby or an Alexander Ovechkin or a Connor McDavid. They're not considered generational talents, but the difference between the number 1 pick and the number 10 pick, which is where the Islanders were originally slated to select, is significant. And if you watch everydayers, if you check out Monday's Locked On NHL, before the draft lottery, I did a segment with JD Young of Locked On Sharks. He knows the draft forwards and backwards, and he gave a brief scouting report on all 3 of these players. And I think, it's a good little introduction to them. But the Islanders in franchise history have only had the first overall pick 4 times. 1972, their first year, first draft, they took Billy Harris. 1973, Dennis Potvin, number 1 overall pick, Hall of Famer. 2000, Rick DiPietro, injuries derailed his career. And then in 2009, so 16 years ago, John Tavares selected first overall by the New York Islanders. And, think about it, in more than 50 years, the Islanders have now only had 4 number 1 overall picks. This would be the 5th. And to say that it will have an impact on this franchise, think about the impact that all of those players had. John Tavares obviously changed the trajectory of the franchise. They didn't surround him maybe with as much talent as they could have. And Tavares was not a generational talent. To me, he's still a very good hockey player, but not an all-time great. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer as of right now. Rick DiPietro gave them great goaltending, but injuries obviously hurt him. Dennis Potvin, one of the all-time greats in the Hall of Fame. The Islanders do not win 4 Stanley Cups without Dennis Potvin. And Billy Harris, for the better part of 9 years, was one of the Islanders' better offensive forwards, and they traded him to get Butch Goring. So all of a sudden, everything is different. And I'm going to say this. Think about where this franchise was 6 weeks ago. Think about where this franchise was 3 weeks ago. The Islanders had just missed the playoffs. They finished the season poorly. Lou Lamoriello was still the general manager. And if that didn't change, we didn't expect much else to change. Now we have a new GM on the way. We have the first overall pick in this year's draft. And all of a sudden, when you start connecting the dots, the Calum Ritchies, the Cole Isermans, whoever the Islanders pick number 1, a new GM who hopefully will make this team younger, faster, and more skilled. All of a sudden, the atmosphere around this franchise changes significantly. And the New York Islanders, who it appeared were facing a potentially really long rebuild or retool, that timeline may just have gotten reduced. Because the New York Islanders are in a position now to add a player who can help right away. And, you get a number 1 defenseman who can be an Islander for a decade, that's a game changer. You add a guy, if you don't want the defenseman, you add that goal scorer who all of a sudden, and look, I don't expect either of these top forward prospects, these top center prospects, to be guys who are going to score 30 goals their rookie year in the NHL. Okay? That's rare. But if they can give you 15 to 20 in year one, and in year two, get you 20 to 25, and then develop into that 30 goal guy, plus maybe even more, you're talking about a change in the outlook of this franchise. And all of a sudden, the Islanders go from just another team stuck in the muddy middle to a team that, at least while they may not be elite yet, and they may not even make the playoffs this coming year, there is hope for the future for this franchise that 4 weeks ago, just did not exist. Islander fans, this is an opportunity for this team to change everything. The attitude, the outlook, the prospect pool, the young talent on the roster. This is big news. And the New York Islanders are in a way better position now than they were just a couple of weeks ago. And again, as I mentioned, having the first overall pick changes the value. Like, any potential GM is going to be drawn more to the Islanders. The job just got a lot more attractive because the Islanders have the first overall pick in this year's draft. 3.5% chance it came through. Who says lottery tickets don't ever pay off? Because this one just did. And this is a big, big night for the New York Islanders. We have got more to get to on today's show. We will talk a little bit more about the fallout from the draft lottery win. The governor of New York steps up for the New York Islanders. We'll also talk about Mark Gatkam's season and what lies ahead for him. And for our Islanders birthday of the day, a defensive forward who started his career with the Islanders in the mid to late 1980s. Let's see if you can guess who this Calgary native is. All that and a whole lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
An award-winning mattress can change your life. I speak from experience. It happened to me. After years of uncomfortable sleeps, I recently switched to Bare Mattress, and the results were instant. Bare Mattress is designed with a focus on recovery, cooling, and pressure relief to upgrade your sleep and improve your overall quality of life. I used to deal with night sweats, but Bare's best-in-class cooling ensures optimal temperature regulation, which prevents overheating and helps me stay comfortable all night long. Bare offers a wide variety of mattresses, but to get the right one for you, take their sleep quiz that matches you to your perfect mattress based on body type and sleep preferences. Go to bearmattress.com and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL at checkout to get 40% off site-wide. This offer is not available anywhere else. You have to use my promo code on the very last page of checkout to get this discount. That's bearmattress.com. Use my promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get 40% off site-wide. Bearmattress.com, promo code LOCKEDONNHL.
So, wow. It's still pretty amazing to me that the New York Islanders pulled this off, end up winning the draft lottery. And look, check out our poll on our YouTube page. Who do you think the Islanders should draft? Again, we list the three top candidates: Matthew Schaefer, the defenseman; Michael Misa, the center; and James Hagen, the Long Island native and center. Those are the top three candidates as of now. Or the fourth choice is other. And you can write in. You You could suggest that they trade the pick. There are a lot of options out there for the New York Islanders right now as a result of winning the draft lottery. And hopefully this ends up paying off for this franchise. And I am happy, very, very happy that the Islanders right now have a new general manager coming in to be able to choose this pick and make a decision on how to best retool this team. And I think as much as that retool got sped up by winning the lottery, there is still a lot of work to do. And everydayers, I've alluded to this, but I wanted to address it right now. Lou Lamoriello, compared to the other teams around the league, had a skeleton crew in his front office. So there's a lot of hirings that need to be made to get the Islanders competitive with other teams. The front office, both here in Bridgeport. Bridgeport has been, as we all know, a disaster. 4 home wins in 36 home games this year. Not the way to build loyalty among your fan base in that area. The pipeline for prospects does still need upgrading. Some of these older players with long-term contracts, now I think you have more of an incentive and more of the ability to move on from them. And I think that is a really good issue. But again, here is an opportunity that just didn't seem to be there 24 hours ago. And now the New York Islanders are facing a lot more hope and a lot more optimism as we continue with this momentous and eventful offseason. And we still don't know who the new GM is going to be, whether the GM is going to keep Patrick Waugh or bring in his own coach. We don't know what moves are going to be made between now and the start of training camp, but I just know it's going to be a very, very exciting ride. By the way, Governor Kathy Hochul of New York State getting involved in the whole mess with the NHL canceling the All-Star game. The governor sending a letter to Gary Bettman. Dear Commissioner Bettman, it reads, I'm writing to express my disappointment regarding the NHL's decision to cancel the 2026 All-Star Weekend at UBS Arena and replace it with a Winter Olympics kickoff event. This decision was made without consultation with the state of New York, which has been a critical partner in supporting this facility and the NHL's presence on Long Island, as well as the entire state. The cancellation of the 2026 All-Star Weekend, an event expected to bring in millions in economic activity to the region, is deeply disappointing. While we understand the significance of the Winter Olympics, the conflict was foreseeable and could have been addressed through early coordination. This decision overlooks the efforts by New York State and sends the wrong message to every public entity that has supported the NHL. Therefore, we request that the NHL revisit this matter immediately. Given that Long Island's 2026 NHL All-Star Weekend has been canceled, the NHL should bring a hockey event with equal or greater economic activity and cultural value to the region in 2027. New York, home of 3 NHL franchises and the league's headquarters, has always been and will continue to be a proud hockey state, and mutual respect is essential in any partnership. We are prepared to be constructive, but we also expect the NHL to honor its commitments to the people of New York. Sincerely, Governor Kathy Hochul. I got to say, look, I know this letter is largely done for PR purposes, but there's also truth to it. And I hope that it puts a little fire under the feet of Commissioner Gary Bettman. to make some kind of a move. And every day, as you'll remember when this happened, I talked about whether you move a future All-Star game, or one thing I thought of, having the UBS Arena, home of the New York Islanders, host a Four Nations tournament the next time that they have the Four Nations tournament. Having Long Island be one of the host cities, I think, would be an excellent idea. An NHL draft could also be held on Long Island, but I think that the governor is right when she says something has to be done, and it's not just a non-hockey, Olympic warm-up event. I don't want just an all-star game, although I would take that. I think, like I've said, all-star games are passé, but at this point, something's got to give. Something's got to be done to make up for the loss of this all-star game, and that the NHL has to handle this in a more constructive way, because it could have been avoided. It should have been anticipated. And now something has to be figured out for the season ticket holders of the New York Islanders, for the owners of the Islanders, who certainly were expecting a nice windfall from the event, and for the fans who wanted to see the best players in hockey performing all at once on Islanders home ice. So we'll see how this all plays out. But realistically speaking, the league owes the Islanders something. And already you hear the conspiracy theorists, right? Oh, yeah, the New York Islanders, they won the draft lottery because they lost the All-Star game and the league rigged it. I am not a conspiracy kind of a guy. If it's true, okay, I guess. If it's not true, and I don't think it is, well, the Islanders just got rather fortunate, and now they have that top overall pick, which, again, is quite the game changer. We have got more to get to on today's show. We continue our player-by-player look at the New York Islanders. Mark Gatkam, a late season addition. What was his impact? What role will he play going forward? We've got that, plus our Islanders birthday of the day, and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Personally, I love the no-shells variety. It's the perfect grab-and-go snack for busy days, whether I'm snacking at my desk, on a road trip, or just need a quick protein boost. They're always my go-to. And if you love cracking open every shell for that satisfying crunch, the in-shell options are a classic favorite. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. That's wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. We continue our player-by-player look at the New York Islanders. And yesterday, everydayers will recall, we started with Matthew Barzal, who obviously, did not exactly have a great season. He only played in 30 games. But now we are discussing Mark Gatkam. And Gatkam, 6'2", 195 pounds, 25 years old. He'll turn 26 in July. And basically made his NHL debut this year with the Islanders. Here's a guy who had never played in the NHL before, who was no longer really even considered a prospect, spent 4 years with the University of Connecticut, only had 9 goals and 17 points in 35 games with Bridgeport. Never scored more than 9 goals in a season in college or in the AHL, and came out and scored 8 goals and 9 points in 39 games with the New York Islanders. Now, he averaged 9 minutes and 47 seconds of ice time, blocked 23 shots in those 39 games. But here is where Gatkam made his biggest impact. Okay? Mark Gatkam gave the fourth line for the New York Islanders some juice. And where do you think Mark Gatkam finished on the Islanders team in hits? I'll tell you right now, it wasn't first. Casey Cizikas had 202 hits while playing in all 82 games for the Islanders. But in second, in only 39 games, was Mark Gatkam with 149 hits. So in less than half the game played by Casey Cizikas, Mark Gatkam had roughly 3/4 of the amount of hits. He woke up the fourth line in the second half of the season, and that is a very big deal for this team, which lacked physicality most of the year. Even with the addition of Gatkam, the fact that a guy who played less than half of the 82 games was second on the team in hits is telling. And, you know, he had 41 shots on goal in 39 games. I don't anticipate he's going to all of a sudden become a 20-goal NHL scorer. But going forward, Mark Gatkam, I believe, has set it up for himself to get another contract, to be a regular fourth-line player on this hockey team. Maybe he can kill some penalties. We'll see if that is a role that he can grow into. But right now, as a forechecker, as a physical player on a team that has lacked physicality, and as a guy who never stops working on a team that has not always had the best work ethic over the course of this season, Mark Gatkam was an important part of the Islanders in the second half of this season. And I think he will be back and he will give you more. I give him an A- for a grade. You know, to have a guy with 8 goals on the fourth line in 39 games, a guy who never plays on the power play, a guy who, you know, like we said, is going to give you only limited minutes. He exceeded expectations. And keep in mind, my grade is a combination of performance and expectation. So if a fourth line player scores 8 goals in 39 games, he'll get a higher grade than if a first line player scores 8 goals in 39 games. Just letting you know how I do the grades. But Mark Gatkam, I think, had a really solid season for the New York Islanders. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And today is the 60th birthday of former Islanders center Bob Basson. He was not drafted, but the Calgary, Alberta native, 5'10", 180 pounds, made his NHL debut with the Islanders in 1985-86, became a full-time player for the team in 1986-87, and stayed on the island until the 88-89 season when he was traded to the Blackhawks. He later played for the Blues, the Nordiques, the Stars, the Flames, and then had a second time with the Blues to close out his career at the end of the 1999-2000 season. Bob Basson, a two-way forward, never hit the 20-goal mark in an NHL year, but his defense and his checking gave him a long career. 765 games, 88 goals, 232 points, and 1,004 penalty minutes. Add 9 goals and 24 points in 93 playoff games. And one of Basson's most memorable moments in the NHL is in this game, November 19th, 1985, Islanders hosting the Flyers at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum. Darren Jensen is the goalie for Philadelphia. Kelly Rudy is the goalie for the Islanders. And after Ed Hospodar gave Philadelphia a 1-0 lead, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Bob Basson, scores his first career NHL goal. Roger Courtgo had the assist, and that tied the game at 1-1. This was a wild game that the Islanders end up winning by a score of 8-6. Mike Bossy had 2 goals and 5 points. So did Brian Trottier. Kelly Rudy made 32 saves to earn the win. But Bob Basson, something you never forget, your first NHL goal, and it came at even strength and on his only shot on goal of the game. Bob Basson is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL. It's on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a comment, a question, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future show, send us an email to lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever it is that's on your mind. You can follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You can follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders throughout this exciting off season. And it's always great to talk a little Islanders hockey with you anytime you want to have a little chat, because I love doing this job. Tomorrow, everydayers, we're back. We will continue to analyze what it means for the Islanders to win the draft lottery, and we'll start taking a look at some of the top prospects in this draft. Hopefully, we'll also have an update on the GM search and a lot more, so make sure you join us for that. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for watching and listening. And of course, let's go Islanders.